She woke up before the sun, the soft light still barely touching the edges of her small room. The morning was quiet except for the faint hum of the city coming from a distance. Her mother had already started the kitchen, the smell of boiling water and fresh bread reaching her nose. She stretched and got out of bed, careful not to make a sound that could wake her younger brother who was still asleep. Every morning was the same. Help her mother, prepare breakfast, and get ready for school. Life was simple, but she had learned to find peace in simplicity. She tied her hair back in a neat ponytail and put on her uniform, the fabric worn but clean. Her shoes had scuff marks from running across the pavement on countless mornings, but she had learned to ignore imperfections. She slipped quietly into the kitchen where her mother was already making tea. They exchanged a brief smile, a quiet understanding passing between them. Her mother worked long hours as a maid in a nearby neighborhood, and she often stayed late to ensure their small family had enough to get by. She respected her mother's hard work, feeling proud to help in any way she could. Breakfast was quick, just bread and tea, but she never complained. She knew it was enough to give her energy for the day. She packed her small bag, careful to include the notebook she liked to write in, along with a few pencils. School was not exciting, but it was necessary, and she liked to fill the quiet moments with drawing or jotting down thoughts. Before leaving, she glanced at herself in the mirror. She was small for her age, and her features were soft and unassuming. She had learned that being quiet often kept her safe, avoiding attention from those who would tease or bully. Little did anyone know, she carried a secret that could change everything. The walk to school was long, but she did not mind. The streets were waking up, and she passed neighbors greeting her with nods and smiles. Some of them had seen her mother working tirelessly for years, and they always gave a little extra warmth to the daughter who reminded them so much of her. She waved back politely, keeping her eyes on the path ahead. She liked observing people, noticing small details that often went unnoticed. It was a habit she had developed from years of being quiet and watching. School was a building full of noise and chatter. She stepped through the gates and immediately felt the familiar mix of excitement and anxiety. She knew some of the students were unkind, but she had learned to keep her distance, blending into the background. Her classmates rarely paid much attention to her. That was just fine. She preferred reading and drawing during breaks, sitting under the large oak tree in the courtyard, lost in her own world. Yet, she noticed everything, every glance, every whispered comment, even if no one thought she did. Her classes began, and she focused on the lessons, taking notes carefully. Teachers often praised her diligence, but she did not let compliments change her. She was quiet, not seeking approval, but she had a strong sense of self-discipline. Her mind was sharp, quick to understand concepts and slow to be distracted. Even when others were noisy or disruptive, she maintained her calm. She had learned early that losing control was dangerous, both in school and in life. Lunchtime arrived, and she found a quiet corner in the cafeteria. She unpacked her small meal, eating slowly and observing the surroundings. Groups of students laughed and talked loudly, some throwing food at each other playfully, some staring at her with curiosity, wondering why she always sat alone. She ignored them, knowing that isolation was sometimes safer than engagement. Her mind wandered to the dojo where she trained in secret. Martial arts had been her escape, her sanctuary, and her shield. Her black belt was hidden from everyone at school, a secret she guarded closely. Only her mother knew, and even then, her mother respected her wish for privacy. After lunch, the final classes of the day began. Her teacher gave a pop quiz, and she answered each question carefully, her hand steady. Around her, other students whispered and fidgeted, but she remained focused. Her mind was disciplined, trained to handle pressure calmly, just like in martial arts. She imagined each problem as a challenge she could face without fear, and slowly, the anxiety of school faded into a manageable background noise. As the final bell rang, she packed her things and prepared to leave. Walking out of the classroom, she noticed a group of students standing near the exit, whispering and laughing. She knew them. They often targeted the quiet ones for amusement. Today, they were pointing at her, smirking, their body language signaling they had some mischief planned. She walked by slowly, keeping her expression neutral, pretending not to notice. Her heart rate quickened slightly, but she kept her steps steady. She had learned that control was essential, that showing fear would only encourage them. She stepped outside into the afternoon sun, the warmth of the day doing little to calm her nerves. The group followed her, maintaining a safe distance, calling out her name and trying to get her attention. She did not respond, keeping her eyes forward. Her mother had taught her that kindness and composure were strengths, but her training had taught her that caution and awareness were just as important. Every muscle in her body was alert, every sense attuned to the presence of potential threats. The walk home was tense. She sensed their eyes on her, the subtle movements indicating they were closing in. She adjusted her pace, pretending to check her phone, giving the appearance of distraction. Her mind raced through scenarios, planning how to navigate the encounter without causing trouble, yet prepared to act if necessary. It was a delicate balance she had mastered over years of martial arts practice and life experience. She had learned to be invisible when needed, but unstoppable when challenged. As she reached the corner near her home, the group finally stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Their laughter echoed in the quiet street, a sharp contrast to the peaceful morning she had experienced. She looked at them calmly, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp. They expected fear or submission. They had no idea what they were about to encounter. She took a deep breath, centering herself, recalling the lessons from countless hours in the dojo. Control, patience, focus. The air seemed to thicken with anticipation, and though she did not move yet, every instinct in her body was ready. One of the boys stepped closer, trying to intimidate her with a shove. She barely flinched, her small frame not a reflection of her strength. The others laughed, thinking her stillness was weakness. They had no idea that she could react faster than their eyes could follow. She weighed her options, knowing that confrontation was inevitable if they persisted. Her mind was a calm storm, calculating, prepared, ready to protect herself without letting anger take control. The scene felt suspended in time, the quiet girl standing firm against the bullies who thought they controlled the moment. She had faced challenges before, both in life and in training, but never like this where appearances were deceiving. She understood that this was a test, not just of her skill but of her restraint and judgment. The lesson from her teachers and mother echoed in her mind. True strength is shown through calmness and wisdom, not just action. She felt a strange sense of readiness, knowing that whatever happened next, she was prepared. The sun dipped slightly lower, casting long shadows, and for a brief moment, the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what the quiet girl would do next. She paused for a moment, taking a deep breath as the group of bullies blocked her path. Their laughter rang out, high and sharp, cutting through the quiet street. She could feel their eyes on her, scanning her from head to toe, trying to find a weakness. She stood still, calm, pretending that their presence did not bother her, even as her heart beat slightly faster. She had learned long ago that fear could give away more than words ever could. She would not give them that advantage. One of the boys stepped forward, smirking, as if daring her to react. He was taller, broader, and clearly used to intimidating others. The others circled around, laughing, making jokes about her small size and quiet nature. Their voices were cruel but playful in tone, the kind of joking that hid a deeper desire to see someone submit. She ignored their words, focusing on the rhythm of her own breathing, keeping her body relaxed but ready. Years of martial arts had taught her that preparation and awareness could turn the tide of any confrontation. He reached out, trying to grab her shoulder. She dodged slightly, a subtle move that barely shifted her weight, but gave her enough space. The boy laughed, thinking it was a flinch, a sign of nervousness. The others joined in, stepping closer, surrounding her in a circle. Their confidence grew, fueled by the assumption that she was scared. She observed their movements carefully, noting their tendencies, the way they shifted their weight, the hand that might swing first. Even though they did not realize it, she was reading them like a book. A sudden shove from the tallest boy pushed her slightly backward. She stumbled, just enough to keep the act of vulnerability, but not enough to lose her balance. She lowered her stance subtly, grounding herself as she had learned in the dojo. Every muscle was ready, every joint prepared for sudden movement. She had trained for years to respond without hesitation, to protect herself efficiently while controlling the situation. Her calmness was her strength, a shield against the unpredictability of others. They laughed and whispered among themselves, underestimating her completely. She noticed the small cues: a tightening of a fist, a shift in posture, a foot tapping impatiently. Each signal gave her information about what might happen next. She knew the first strike could come from anyone, and she was prepared to react with precision. But she also knew that action without thought could escalate the situation unnecessarily. She would not strike first, not without provocation. Her mind remained clear, calculating, ready for any outcome. The boys started closing in, their laughter turning into more direct taunts. They called her names, mocking her size and her quiet nature. One of them even stepped too close, trying to intimidate her with a feigned punch. She leaned slightly to the side, a subtle dodge that caused him to stumble forward. The others chuckled, but she could sense the flicker of doubt creeping in. They still thought it was a joke, still thought she would be scared. But each careful movement of hers told a different story, even if they did not understand it yet. A sharp comment made her glance up directly at the tallest boy. His eyes met hers, and for the first time, she noticed a hesitation. Her calm gaze, steady and unwavering, seemed to unsettle him. He expected fear, but she offered none. She felt a strange confidence rising inside her, a quiet power that had nothing to do with anger but everything to do with control. She could see the cracks in their performance, the overconfidence starting to fade, replaced by unease. Her presence alone began to shift the energy of the moment. The group tried a new tactic, stepping closer in unison, hoping to intimidate her with numbers. But she remained still, a small figure radiating quiet strength. She could feel the tension in the air, the anticipation, as they waited for her reaction. She imagined each of them making a move, mentally rehearsing the responses she had learned. She did not need to strike, not yet, but she was ready. Her training had taught her that control over oneself often conveyed more power than force ever could. One boy reached out again, trying to push her. This time she did not dodge as much. She shifted her weight slightly, a subtle movement that redirected his energy harmlessly to the side. He stumbled, losing balance, and she remained perfectly steady. The others blinked, momentarily surprised by her ability to react so smoothly. It was a small demonstration, but it carried a clear message. She was not weak, and she was not afraid. Her black belt had taught her the precision and discipline to defend herself without unnecessary aggression. They paused, realizing that their plan was not going smoothly. The boy who had pushed her looked at his friends, uncertainty in his expression. He had expected an easy target, someone who would flinch, someone who would cry or back away. But she remained calm, grounded, confident. Her quiet demeanor was now a form of resistance, a challenge they had not anticipated. Her eyes, steady and focused, seemed to communicate that she understood their intentions and could counter them at any moment. One of the boys tried to grab her arm again, but she shifted sideways, twisting her body in a controlled motion that caused him to lose grip. The others gasped slightly, surprised at the ease with which she moved. She did not strike them. She did not need to. Her movements were enough to demonstrate that she was capable of handling any aggression. She had learned that sometimes the mere knowledge that she could respond was more powerful than any action she could take. Confidence was her armor, and it worked silently. The tallest boy stepped forward, raising his voice, trying to assert dominance. He underestimated her once again. She stayed calm, not reacting verbally, not showing any hint of fear. Her body was ready, her mind alert. She felt the familiar sense of readiness, a combination of discipline, awareness, and control. Every muscle was tuned to respond, every sense sharpened. The other students had expected a fight fueled by fear or anger, but she offered neither. She was in control of herself and, indirectly the situation. The tension grew, and she could sense the subtle shift in the group. Their confidence wavered, their energy faltered. They had expected compliance, submission, easy laughter at her expense. Instead, they found a quiet, focused presence that refused to yield. She remained still, her breathing steady, her gaze calm. The world seemed to narrow around her, the noise fading, leaving only the critical details. Movements, gestures, intentions. She was aware of every possibility, prepared for any action, and unshaken. Finally, one of the boys made a mistake, stepping too close in an attempt to grab her shoulder. She moved with precision, a small pivot that deflected his energy and caused him to stumble without falling. The other boys froze, witnessing the subtle but undeniable skill she displayed. It was not violent, it was not angry, but it was effective. Her presence alone had become a warning, a clear signal that she was not someone to be trifled with. The joke they intended had failed before it truly began. They exchanged uncertain glances, suddenly aware that they had misjudged her. Their laughter had stopped, replaced by quiet whispers of confusion and hesitation. She maintained her calm, her stance unwavering, her eyes focused on each of them in turn. She had not moved aggressively, but she had demonstrated the control and skill that made confrontation pointless for them. Her quiet strength spoke louder than words ever could. With a final measured step, she moved past them, keeping her composure. She did not need to strike or shout. Her skill and confidence had been enough to disarm their aggression. They stepped aside, unsure of how to respond, as she walked away with calm determination. Her heart still beat with adrenaline, but her mind was clear. She had handled the encounter without losing control, without giving in to fear or anger. She had protected herself and sent a clear message, all without unnecessary violence. The street returned to quiet as she continued her walk home. The sunlight now fell softly on the pavement, casting long shadows. She reflected on the encounter, not with pride or arrogance, but with a sense of relief and understanding. She knew the world often underestimated quiet strength, but she also knew that true power came from discipline, awareness, and control. She had proven to herself that even in the face of intimidation, she could remain composed, ready, and capable. Her journey was not over, but she had taken an important step, learning once again that her quiet strength was a force to be respected. The group of bullies stood frozen for a moment, the tension between them and the quiet girl thick enough to feel. She remained calm, her posture relaxed yet prepared, her eyes steady as she looked at each one of them. They had expected submission, laughter at their jokes, maybe even fear, but instead they were met with control, discipline, and a quiet intensity that unsettled them more than words ever could. They could sense it, even if they did not understand it, a silent warning that she was not someone to push around. One of the taller boys stepped forward, trying to regain his lost confidence. He reached out, attempting to grab her arm, but she moved just in time, twisting her body with precision. The boy stumbled forward, off balance, and the others blinked in surprise. It was subtle, not violent, but it sent a clear message. She was capable. She didn't need to shout or swing her fists. Her movements alone showed skill, awareness, and control. The group hesitated, uncertainty creeping into their expressions. They had not expected this. The quiet girl felt a rush of focus that came naturally from years of training. Every muscle was ready, every sense alert. She could anticipate the smallest shift in weight, the tiniest twitch that revealed intention. Her mind was sharp, calculating possible movements for each boy, preparing responses that would protect her while keeping the confrontation under control. She had learned that martial arts were not about aggression but about defense, discipline, and clarity in moments that could escalate if mishandled. A boy laughed nervously, trying to cover his uncertainty with mock confidence. He made a half step forward, as if to shove her, but she adjusted her stance instantly. A small pivot, a subtle shift in weight, and he stumbled slightly again. The others watched, eyes wide, as she moved with precision that seemed almost effortless. It was not about strength or size, it was about timing, balance, and focus. She had spent years learning to turn even a moment of potential danger into a controlled interaction, and now all her training was evident in every small action. The tallest boy's face turned red with frustration. He was used to dominating others, but here, his usual tactics were failing. The quiet girl remained steady, her breathing slow and even. She was aware of the fear building in them, the doubt, the sudden questioning of their own assumptions. They had assumed that a small, quiet girl could be intimidated, that she would react with fear or anger, but she had neither. Her calm presence alone began to command respect, though they were still too stubborn to admit it. But one of the bullies tried a more aggressive approach, stepping in quickly with an outstretched arm, attempting to push her. She moved smoothly, redirecting his energy with a gentle but firm motion that sent him slightly off course. He almost fell, catching himself just in time, and the others froze, realizing that she was not just defending but controlling the flow of the encounter. Her movements were like water, flowing naturally and effortlessly, responding to the aggression without needing to overpower it. It was a skill that could only come from years of dedicated training and discipline. Her mind raced calmly, assessing every possible action they could take. She did not feel anger, only a clear awareness of the situation. She could see that the boy's confidence was fading, that the laughter and jokes were no longer masking fear. Her quiet determination was becoming more powerful than their aggression. She knew that if she had to, she could end the confrontation immediately, but she also understood the value of restraint. She had learned that sometimes showing control was more effective than any strike. Suddenly, one boy lunged forward, more desperate than confident. She reacted instinctively, stepping aside and guiding his momentum to the side. He stumbled but did not fall, a brief moment that showed the others the precision and skill in her movements. It was enough to stop the immediate attack, but it also served as a clear demonstration. She was not afraid, she was capable, and she would defend herself if necessary. The group froze, unsure how to respond, their earlier bravado evaporating in the face of her calm and control. The quiet girl's eyes remained focused, scanning the subtle movements of each boy. She noticed the hesitation, the shifting weight, the micro-expressions that revealed fear and doubt. She had learned to read people this way both in martial arts and in life. Understanding intention before action gave her an advantage that did not rely on aggression, only awareness and precision. She did not move aggressively, yet every slight adjustment she made communicated a silent message. She was in control of herself and, indirectly, of the situation. The tallest boy tried to regain his authority, raising his voice, calling her names, and making threats. But she did not flinch. She kept her breathing steady, her stance solid, her gaze unwavering. She could see the uncertainty spreading among the others. Their plan to intimidate her had failed, and they were beginning to realize that they had miscalculated. The quiet girl, small and unassuming in appearance, had demonstrated a calm and disciplined power that none of them had anticipated. One boy made a sudden move, trying to grab her shoulder again. She pivoted with smooth precision, moving him off balance and causing him to stumble. The others watched, wide-eyed and silent for the first time. Her actions were not violent. She did not strike, she did not shout. She merely controlled the space around her, demonstrating skill and awareness that spoke louder than words ever could. The realization hit them all. This was no ordinary girl, and their assumptions had been completely wrong. The quiet girl took a deliberate step back, creating a clear path for herself. She did not attack, she did not provoke. She simply existed with calm confidence, letting her presence convey a warning. The bullies hesitated, uncertain whether to follow, whether to continue, or whether to retreat. Her black belt training had taught her that timing, control, and awareness were more important than any show of brute strength. She had mastered the art of using skill to de-escalate while remaining prepared to defend herself if needed. Her breathing remained even, her mind clear. She could feel the shift in energy, the subtle acknowledgement of their misjudgment. The group's confidence had crumbled, replaced by hesitation, doubt, and a faint fear. They had expected to dominate, to provoke fear, to elicit submission. Instead, they found themselves facing someone who was calm, controlled, and capable beyond their assumptions. Every subtle movement she made communicated her ability to respond, to protect herself, to maintain control. For a brief moment, the street seemed to hold its breath. The sun cast long shadows, the quiet girl standing firm while the bullies struggled to process what had just occurred. Her gaze remained steady, focused, unyielding. The tension hung in the air, thick and palpable, as they realized they had underestimated her entirely. They had intended to intimidate, to provoke, to amuse themselves at her expense. But their assumptions had been shattered in silence, without a single aggressive strike. She took another measured step, moving past them with composure. Her heart beat steadily, calm and controlled, as if the encounter had been exactly as it should be. She did not gloat, did not taunt. She simply walked, letting the power of her presence speak for itself. The bullies stood there, a mixture of confusion, disbelief, and newfound respect in their expressions. They had learned a lesson they would not forget. Appearances could deceive, and quiet strength could be far more formidable than aggression. As she continued on her way, the quiet girl felt a sense of calm satisfaction. She had handled the situation with precision, control, and discipline, demonstrating her hidden strength without resorting to unnecessary violence. She understood the balance between power and restraint, the importance of awareness and timing. Her black belt training had not only prepared her for moments like this but had taught her how to navigate the world with confidence, composure, and quiet authority. She walked on, the sun warm on her face, her mind clear and focused. She knew the encounter was over, and that she had proven something to herself more than to anyone else. The quiet strength she carried was not about intimidation or fear, but about control, awareness, and the ability to act decisively when necessary. She had faced a challenge, maintained composure, and revealed her true capability, all without letting anger or fear dictate her actions. It was a moment of clarity, a testament to her discipline, and a quiet victory that no one else needed to celebrate. After the confrontation, she walked the rest of the way home, her steps calm and steady. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the streets, and the world seemed quieter now, as if acknowledging the end of the tension that had gripped her moments ago. She could still feel the rush of awareness and control from the encounter, but it was balanced with relief. She had faced the bullies without fear and maintained her composure, proving to herself that her strength was not just physical but mental and emotional as well. When she entered the small apartment, her mother looked up from the kitchen counter, her face showing concern. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice gentle. The girl nodded, smiling slightly. "I'm fine, just a little tired." She unpacked her bag and placed it neatly on the table, taking a moment to breathe and center herself. Her mother had always taught her the importance of handling challenges calmly, and she could see how those lessons had guided her today. Over the next few days, the school began to change. Word of the incident spread quickly, as it always did when someone unexpected showed courage. Teachers who had never noticed her before now looked at her with a quiet respect. Classmates whispered in the hallways, sharing what they had seen, and even those who had been unkind seemed hesitant to approach her the way they had before. The quiet girl noticed the shift but did not let it affect her outward calm. She continued her routines, attending classes, taking notes, and quietly observing the changing dynamics around her. During lunch, she returned to her usual spot under the large oak tree. Some students approached cautiously, curious and respectful. One or two asked her questions about martial arts, their voices polite and tentative. She answered simply, without boasting, sharing small insights about her training and discipline. They listened, captivated not just by her skill but by the quiet confidence she radiated. It was a new experience for her, being recognized not for her quietness but for the strength and composure she had shown. The bullies, on the other hand, were noticeably different. Their arrogance had faded, replaced by a mixture of shame and respect. They no longer laughed loudly or tried to intimidate her. Instead, they kept a careful distance, aware that their previous assumptions had been wrong. She did not seek revenge, nor did she relish their discomfort. Her victory was in the knowledge that she had stood her ground, not in seeing others falter. That understanding gave her a quiet satisfaction, a sense of balance restored. Teachers began to notice her more than ever. One of them approached her after class, speaking in a gentle but firm tone. "I heard what happened. You handled yourself well." She nodded politely, her face calm, appreciating the acknowledgement but not seeking further attention. She understood that true respect was earned quietly and consistently, not through showy displays or loud proclamations. Her strength had been revealed, and now she carried herself with the same calmness that had guided her during the encounter. Even students who had ignored or underestimated her before began to engage with her differently. Some asked her for help with assignments, others sought advice about personal matters. She listened carefully, offering thoughtful responses without judgment. Her experiences had taught her empathy and patience, and she applied these qualities naturally. People were drawn to her not because of fear but because of the quiet assurance she provided, a presence that was steady and dependable. The bullies, in particular, began to reflect on their actions. They had intended to mock and intimidate, but they had learned an important lesson about assumptions and respect. She noticed subtle changes in their behavior. Less teasing, more thoughtfulness in interactions, a cautious approach that indicated understanding. She did not confront them directly about their previous actions. Instead, she allowed her example to guide them, demonstrating through her calm and disciplined demeanor what true strength looked like. As the days passed, she continued her martial arts training, attending sessions in secret as usual. The dojo was her sanctuary, a place where she could refine her skills, focus her mind, and prepare herself for any challenges ahead. Her teacher noticed the subtle increase in confidence and composure in her movements and praised her for the growth she had shown. She felt a sense of continuity between the lessons at the dojo and the lessons in life, understanding that discipline, focus, and awareness applied in both places. Her family noticed the change as well. Her mother remarked on how she walked with a quiet assurance, how her eyes reflected a calm understanding of the world around her. Her younger brother looked up to her, inspired by her courage and steadiness. These small affirmations mattered more than the attention from peers, reinforcing the values that had been instilled in her from a young age. She knew that her strength was not just about defending herself but about guiding others through example. The school environment gradually shifted. Students became more respectful, not only towards her but towards each other. There was less teasing, more careful consideration of words and actions. The quiet girl's example had demonstrated that strength and composure could change the dynamics around her, influencing not through fear or dominance but through the quiet assertion of self-respect and control. She continued to be observant, noticing small improvements and subtle changes that indicated a healthier, more mindful environment. One afternoon, a small group of students approached her, asking if she could teach them some basic self-defense moves. She agreed, smiling softly, understanding that sharing knowledge could empower others while maintaining respect and discipline. The sessions were calm, controlled, and focused on awareness and self-protection rather than aggression. Students who had once mocked her now looked up to her as a guide, appreciating the wisdom she shared and the example she set. Throughout it all, she remained humble. She did not seek recognition or admiration, nor did she use her skills to dominate. Her strength was quiet, disciplined, and purposeful. She understood that respect was earned through actions, not words, and that true influence came from consistency and integrity. Each day she continued her routines, helping her mother, attending school, and practicing martial arts, all while observing the subtle ways her presence affected those around her. The bullies eventually approached her, not with threats or jokes, but with tentative gestures of acknowledgement. They offered apologies, some in words, others through small actions demonstrating respect. She accepted these gestures with calm grace, understanding that change was a process, and that her role was not to punish but to exemplify strength and composure. Their transformation, small though it was, became another quiet affirmation of the power of disciplined presence and controlled action. By the end of the week, the school felt different. The energy was calmer, the interactions more thoughtful. The quiet girl continued her routines, unaffected outwardly by the shift, but aware internally of the positive changes. She had faced intimidation, maintained her composure, revealed her capabilities, and influenced the environment around her in subtle but meaningful ways. It was a reminder that true strength was often hidden, revealed not through spectacle but through measured, consistent action. Returning home each day, she felt the satisfaction of inner balance. She helped her mother, attended to her brother, and reflected on the events that had unfolded. Each experience reinforced the lessons she had learned in martial arts and in life. Patience, awareness, discipline, and the quiet power of calm confidence. The confrontation with the bullies was behind her, but the lessons endured, guiding her in every interaction, shaping her character, and affirming that strength and composure were intertwined. She understood that her journey was ongoing, that challenges would continue to arise, but she felt ready. The quiet girl, small and unassuming in appearance, had proven that her true power lay not in aggression or loud defiance, but in awareness, discipline, and controlled action. Her presence had changed the dynamics of her school, influenced the behavior of those around her, and reinforced the values she held dear. As she continued her daily life, she carried with her the quiet knowledge that strength, when wielded with wisdom and restraint, could be transformative and enduring. The days after the incident passed quietly, but she could feel subtle changes everywhere. Students who had once ignored her or dismissed her as quiet now looked at her with curiosity, and some with admiration. She did not seek their approval, nor did she let their attention alter her routines. She continued to help her mother in the mornings, walk to school with the same careful steps, and focus during her classes. Yet, the world around her was noticing her in ways that were new and unexpected. At school, the energy had shifted. The students were more cautious in their interactions, less quick to tease or mock. Even small incidents of bullying were handled differently, not because of fear, but because people had begun to respect the quiet authority she displayed. Teachers noticed her continued diligence and poise, but now they also saw a confidence that was steady, unshakable, and deeply rooted. Her presence had become a quiet anchor in the hallways, a reminder that strength was not always loud, but often subtle and enduring. One day, a student approached her with a question about self-discipline, mentioning martial arts. She smiled softly, taking a moment to answer thoughtfully. She spoke of focus, awareness, and the importance of knowing oneself. Her words were calm and deliberate, carrying the weight of experience without arrogance. The student listened intently, absorbing not just her advice but the quiet authority she naturally exuded. It was a teaching moment that extended beyond physical skill, touching on life lessons that were subtle but powerful. The bullies who had confronted her weeks ago now treated her differently. Their arrogance had diminished, replaced with a tentative respect. They no longer sought to intimidate or provoke, instead giving her space and observing her from a distance. She did not confront them about their past actions. She did not need to. Her actions, her calm demeanor, and her consistent integrity spoke louder than any conversation could. They learned, in their own way, the power of humility and the strength of controlled presence. At home, the quiet girl reflected on the changes she saw in herself and in others. Her mother noticed a new ease in her movements, a calm confidence in her voice. Her younger brother looked up to her in ways that filled her with gentle pride. She realized that strength was not only about defending oneself but about influencing others positively through example. Every action, every choice to remain composed, shaped the environment around her. She felt a deep sense of responsibility, understanding that her abilities were a tool to create balance and harmony, not to dominate or intimidate. The dojo remained her sanctuary. Her training continued with dedication and focus, each session reinforcing not only her physical skills, but her mental and emotional resilience. Her teacher remarked on the growth she had shown, the maturity that extended beyond technique into the way she carried herself in daily life. Each movement, each controlled response, was a reflection of her experiences and the lessons she had internalized. She understood that martial arts were not just about fighting, but about cultivating awareness, discipline, and respect for oneself and others. One afternoon, she decided to participate in a local martial arts demonstration. The event was small, but it offered an opportunity to share her skills with the community. She performed with grace and precision, every movement controlled and deliberate. The audience watched with admiration, not just for the technical skill, but for the calm confidence she displayed. She moved through each routine with focus and poise, demonstrating that true strength was both physical and mental, visible in the discipline of the body and the steadiness of the mind. After the demonstration, several students and community members approached her, eager to learn more. She spoke kindly, offering simple advice and encouragement. Her presence was approachable yet commanding, a balance she had cultivated through years of quiet training and life experience. She inspired not through aggression or dominance, but through example, showing that control, awareness, and perseverance were the hallmarks of real strength. Each conversation, each shared insight, reinforced the quiet impact she had on those around her. At school, her continued composure and integrity gradually influenced the culture. Students became more mindful of their words and actions, understanding that intimidation and cruelty had no place when faced with consistent, calm authority. Teachers noticed the subtle changes, appreciating the way the quiet girl's presence encouraged better behavior and mutual respect. Even small acts of kindness and discipline by her inspired others to emulate the same balance in their own actions. The ripple effect of her influence grew steadily, not through force, but through the quiet power of example. Her relationships with peers evolved naturally. Students who had once been indifferent now sought her advice, respected her opinions, and appreciated her calm judgment. She listened carefully, spoke thoughtfully, and guided others without seeking recognition or control. Her influence was subtle but effective, shaping not only her own life but the environment around her. She learned that leadership could exist quietly, without loud words or dramatic displays, and that respect could be earned through consistency, integrity, and composure. The bullies, too, transformed in small ways. They became more reflective, cautious, and aware of the impact of their actions. Their gestures of acknowledgement and respect were not forced but grew organically as they witnessed the quiet girl's ongoing composure and integrity. They learned, perhaps slowly, that true strength was not about size, aggression, or intimidation, but about discipline, awareness, and control. The transformation of those around her was a testament to the subtle power of her presence and the lessons she embodied. As weeks turned into months, she continued her daily routines, balancing school, family responsibilities, and martial arts training. Each day brought small challenges, and she met them with the same calm, focused approach she had learned to apply in moments of direct confrontation. Her experiences had taught her resilience, patience, and the importance of understanding oneself before facing the world. She had grown stronger not only in skill but in character, developing a quiet confidence that influenced everything she touched. Her mother often watched her with quiet pride, noticing the way she handled interactions with care and authority. Her younger brother saw her as a role model, inspired by her ability to remain calm under pressure and to guide others through example. The quiet girl understood that her journey was ongoing, that every day presented opportunities to refine her skills, deepen her understanding, and extend her influence positively. She embraced the responsibility of her abilities, not as a burden, but as a guiding force for herself and others. In school, she continued to be a steady presence. Students respected her, teachers appreciated her calm diligence, and even those who had once doubted her now looked to her as a model of composure and discipline. She remained humble, never boasting about her skills or seeking recognition. Her actions spoke for themselves, demonstrating the value of patience, awareness, and integrity. Through quiet consistency, she had reshaped the environment around her, fostering respect, mindfulness, and understanding among her peers. Her martial arts practice deepened, each session reinforcing the principles she lived by: control, awareness, patience, and respect. She applied these lessons beyond the dojo, in school, at home, and in every interaction. Her strength was no longer hidden. It had become a part of who she was, shaping her presence, her decisions, and the way others perceived her. The quiet girl had become a symbol of measured power, demonstrating that true strength was not loud or aggressive, but disciplined, aware, and compassionate. As she looked ahead, she felt a sense of purpose and confidence. She had faced challenges, revealed her abilities, influenced her environment, and continued to grow. She understood that her journey was ongoing, but she felt prepared, grounded, and capable. Her quiet strength had not only protected her, but had also guided those around her, creating a ripple effect of respect, awareness, and composure. She walked forward with steady steps, carrying the knowledge that true power lay in discipline, integrity, and the quiet assertion of self, shaping the world one deliberate action at a time.